Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covered, three-handle family gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number 4, armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another B Plus podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday, so you know what that means. It's everyone's favourite day. It's Aussie Grapps Day, the day that I sit down and break down the week in Australian professional wrestling news. I also like to sit down and talk with one of our very own Aussie Grapplers. Today I'm talking to Massive Q. This is going to be part one of a two-part conversation. We got talking, and normally I like to have the interviews go for roughly 20 to 30 minutes so that there's still time to talk news, there's still time to talk what's coming up this weekend. But once Q and I got talking, we just kind of kept going. And I before I knew it, we were sitting at an hour, and I was like, oh, well, I'm going to have to turn this into a two-parter. So this week you're going to get part one, and next week, heading into his big match at Wrestling Go United, you're going to get part two of that conversation. And then we're going to take a look, as we always do, at what is happening this week around the country in terms of wrestling action. Now, last weekend was a very big wrestling weekend. Of course, on Sunday, which was Father's Day, we had All In. That didn't happen in Australia, of course. It happened over in Chicago. There weren't even any Aussies on the card. Pick up your game, Cody. Pick up your game, Bucks. You've wrestled here. You know our talent. You can bring some of us over. Some of our guys deserve to be on All In. But it was a big weekend regardless. So All In was on Sunday, and I managed to get out to WrestleRampage on Friday night and BCW on Saturday night. So I want to have a quick talk about those two shows. WrestleRampage was, without a doubt, one of the greatest live wrestling shows I've been to in this country, and I've been to a fair few. This particular card had something for everyone. I'm going to shout out a couple of specific matches. It doesn't mean that the other matches weren't great, because top to bottom I had a really fun night. But the matches that really stood out, there was a fatal four-way between Big Fudge, who of course is from Sydney, the Human Bullet, Link Barnett, Dean Valenti, and Joni May. This match was fantastic. When they made their entrances, a lot of the crowd were a little unsure about Joni May being the fourth competitor, so the three guys all came out first, and then it was Joni May. And just having a look around the crowd, I could see that there were some people there that were kind of confused by what was happening. There were some whispers, like, is she going to be wrestling the guys? Yes! This is wrestling, and it's fantastic. And they didn't rush it, they didn't force it, but these four took their time introducing the concept of Joni May is on par with these guys, and they're gonna fight as equals, they're gonna hit each other, they're gonna... Dean Valenti still got some heat by pulling her hair and things of that nature. He knocks her down and then shouts feminism, and everyone boos the hell out of him. It was good fun. But they really introduced it slowly and in a way that made sense and got everyone in the crowd behind Joni May and ready to go. It was really well done. And then later in the match came some really good comedy spots. So for those who know, Big Fudge has a move that he calls the butt punch. It is exactly what it sounds like. He punches the butt. And Link Barnett does a running hip attack, butt attack move. And he did that move and claimed that he had a butt of steel. And Big Fudge sort of fired up like, I don't think so, and punched his butt. And it took a couple of butt punches for him to feel anything. And then they had this whole spot where it was the butt of steel versus the butt puncher. It was hilarious. Everything about this match was great. Really well timed, really well laid out match. And it had the crowd in stitches at points. and had the crowd really amped up and ready to go. It was a really, really fun match. I imagine this show, it was WrestleRampage Domination, by the way. I imagine this show will be available on Vimeo soon, and when it is, I highly recommend giving it a purchase because top to bottom, it was a really good show. Another match that stood out a lot was Rat Daddy versus Loverboy Lockie Hendricks. These are two of the most charismatic guys in Australian professional wrestling. Some people will say saying your name repeatedly is not charismatic. I disagree. The way Loverboy does it is highly charismatic. He gets everyone on board, everyone on board with hating him. And Rat Daddy just has everyone in the palm of his hand from the second he comes out. I don't know if it's the grill, if it's the coat. I don't know what it is, but he's tossing cheese at people. Like, generally, I would think if someone's throwing cheese at me, I'm probably going to want to boo this guy. I mean, he's throwing cheese at me. It's a little weird. But the WrestleRampage crowd are so behind Rat Daddy, it's ridiculous. These two had a cracker of a match. There were a few spots in the beginning where it looked a bit awkward, but as they were sort of feeling each other out. But Loverboy did real good at taking control and sort of covering those spots to make it look like it was just a fight, and these things happen in a fight. It was really good. He also got his boot stuck in the entryway, which was really fun. Got a bit of a "you fucked up" chant going on, which is always nice to hear. AJ Istria versus Robbie Eagles. These guys put on an absolute clinic. Cannot speak highly enough about this match. AJ Istria is one of the names that should be up there when we're talking about the best that this country have to offer, and you don't see his name mentioned that often. Maybe because he's a Queensland guy. He's moved down to Adelaide, so both are kind of out of the way. If he was in Sydney or Melbourne, he would be one of the most raved about guys in the Australian wrestling scene. I can guarantee it. And he and Robbie just put on an absolute fire match beginning to end, targeting the arm, and ultimately got the win by submission. But Jonah Rock and Tyler Trench went to absolute war in a street fight. This match had everything. It had, Tyler Trench was bleeding before the opening bell from hitting himself in the head with a trash can lid. And that kind of set the tone for the rest of the evening. We got chair shots galore, garbage cans galore, a staple gun. One of Robbie Eagles' bandanas that was left in the ring got stapled to Jonah Rock's head, and he had to yank it out, and then he was busted over. He was bleeding from the head. And then Tyler Trench took a cheese grater to the head. The cheese that was still at ringside didn't get used, but Tyler Trench rubbed the cheese grater into the already busted open head of Jonah Rock, forcing him to bleed more and more. And then light tubes ended up coming into it. There was ladders. And ultimately, Jonah Rock gets the win, defending his championship by doing a frog splash from the top of a ladder on the stage to a prone Tyler Trench with a bundle of light tubes laid across his chest. It was insane. There's a video of it on the Facebook if you want to scroll back through, or on the Instagram as well. So if you go to the B Plus Wrestling on Facebook or Instagram, you'll be able to see a little video of it. As I said, I'm sure it will be available on Vimeo, and when it is, I will post about it and let everyone know, because this whole show was fantastic, and it's going to be well worth the $5 or $10 or whatever it is that WrestleRampage charge for their on-demand events. Moving on to Saturday night, I had the choice between going to Riot City or BCW, and as I talked about last week, I had a bit of a rough week, and so I ended up choosing to go to BCW because I had some friends that were going to BCW. I didn't know anyone that was going to be at the Riot City show, so I chose to sort of surround myself with people I know, which was a good choice. I ended up having a really fun night and sort of came out of my shell a little bit and had a bit of fun, and I got to meet some of the guys that have been on the show, like Dowie James and JXT, got to meet them for the first time, Indy Hartwell as well. And so that was all really fun. But the show itself, I can't say... I had a really fun time, but I can't say the show itself was anything more than disappointing. It was $60 for a ticket. That was for a general admission ticket. So I paid $60 to get in, and we ended up getting a 7-minute main event. And it's not the fault of the guys. Like, I know that it's either the venue and time, and they'd gone long. It didn't feel like they'd gone long, though. That's the thing. It felt like the show had only been going for 2 hours or so. So I don't think they went long. I don't think that was the issue. But it's either the booking or whatever it was. I'm not blaming the guys at all. The guys went out there and did everything they could to put on a great show. That main event, of course, was Rob Van Dam versus Jonah Rock versus Sid Parker versus Masato Tanaka, who, by the way, Masato Tanaka is looking ripped. He must be in his 50s at this point. I don't know how old he is, but he must be in his 50s, and he looks like he can still go. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see too much of it, but he looks like he can really still go, so hopefully he gets more chance to show his work in Sydney and Melbourne this week, but yeah, a 7-minute main event for $60. If anyone from BCW is listening, that's not cool, man. Like, that's not, like, as a fan coming to the show, and I paid $60, I paid general admission, right? Like, some people paid $150, $180 for these ringside, get in the ring and take a photo with the wrestlers kind of packages, and I'm sure they still had a good time. Like I said, I still had a good time, but, I mean, $60 for a 7-minute main event, that's ridiculous. I mean, just 3 blocks down the road, there was a packed house for Riot City Wrestling 200, and they got to see a massive 8-man, 4-tag team TLC title match that's going to go down in RCW history, and it would have gone for a good 20 minutes or so, but we get a 6-minute match? Come on, man. Like, pick up the game. Other than that, there was some really good stuff on the show. The Preston Kindred ripped out Andy Faust's tooth. That was absolutely brutal. It's one of those things where you're watching wrestling and you're like, I know this is wrestling, but that looked brutal. Like, that looked real. Like, how did they do that? They yanked his tooth out. There was blood. There was a tooth. They took a selfie with it on their phone. Really brutal stuff. Preston Kindred scare me, and I do not want to be in their general vicinity too often. The Kingdom, Gabriel Wolf and Tone Philippe had a match with the lads. That was a really good match. It wasn't hampered by anything else. Sabu, I don't know if he injured himself on the Friday night in Melbourne or if he just shouldn't be wrestling anymore, but the Sabu match was heartbreaking. Sabu was one of my favorites as a kid. I was a big RVD guy, big Sabu guy, and yeah, he was clutching his arm the entire match. He couldn't lift. Like, he needed help getting the table out from under the ring. He needed help getting the chairs into the ring. He couldn't hit the ropes properly. It was heartbreaking to watch. And I don't know. Like, if he's taking these bookings because he needs the payday, but he shouldn't be wrestling, like, that's incredibly sad. I don't know. I don't know what to say because I have nothing but love and respect for Sabu, but this was not watchable. Slade, Mercer, and Nick Berry did everything they could to make the match watchable, but all eyes were on Sabu at ringside, just laying out, just having trouble moving. He wasn't selling. That's the thing. You can tell the difference, you know, and he was in a bad way, and I don't know, it was scary to watch him go through that table at the end of the match. He did the leg drop spot through the table, and that's the other thing, is this guy who's clearly injured or just not able to wrestle at the extent that he used to anymore. And he lays out for the entirety of this triple threat match. He was in the ring for maybe a whole 2 minutes, but he gets the win? Like, he didn't lay out in a smart way. It wasn't like, you know, The Miz rolls out of the ring early and lets the other guys beat each other down and the commentators call attention to it. It wasn't like that. It was... He rolled out because he wasn't able to do things. Like, you saw him hit the ropes and he couldn't really hit the ropes, and then he ate a drop kick, rolled out, and stayed out. He needed his manager's help to get the table into the ring. Slade sets up the table. Like, it was bad. There's no sugarcoating it. It was bad. It was hard to watch, and I don't know, like, at least if he's injured, like, do an injury angle, ride him out, like, so that in a way that the crowd can see him and get their money's worth for having seen the guy come out. Maybe he goes to do something and he gets cut off and isn't able to and gets beaten down, gets his arm broken, whatever the spot is, you know, but don't throw him out there and have him win a match that he's clearly not capable of winning. It was bad. It was just terrible booking. I mean, Melina and Indy Hartwell was probably the highlight of the night, was probably the best match. Indy, fantastic job. Her banter game is strong. And Melina, she still has it. She can still go. I hope she ends up on the Women's Evolution card with WWE. But yeah, they put on a good match, but then again, the booking made no sense. The booking was weird. Indy ends up hitting Melina with the title, causing the DQ, even though Indy's not the champion anymore. She'd lost the title the night before. She'd lost the BCW Women's Championship to Melina, so Melina's the champion now. If Indy was the champion, it would make sense for her to hit her with the belt and cause the DQ because she has the champion's advantage, but she should be trying to get that belt back. I don't know, it didn't make much sense to me from a booking perspective, but it was still probably the best match on the night. The main event would have been the best match. The main event was also the best match, but it only went for 7 minutes, and I'm still salty about that. I'm real salty that the main event only went for 7 minutes. I paid $60 for a damn ticket. I want more than a 7-minute main event, especially when you've got guys like Jonah Rock and Sid Parker in there who can absolutely tear the house down when necessary. RVD should still be able to tear the house down. I don't know what was going on. I don't know why it was only 7 minutes, but as a ticket-paying customer, it kind of pissed me off. So that's my little rant about BCW. You can check the full review that I wrote on the bplus.com. I also wrote a review for the WrestleRampage show I was at. I'm taking a bit of a break from writing reviews for TV shows like Raw and SmackDown and whatnot at the moment just because of life situation. So putting these podcasts together is sort of work enough that for a while there I had time to also write reviews for pretty much every show I watched. But at the moment, unfortunately, that's going to have to fall by the wayside. But I will still write reviews for any shows I get out to watch in person. Things like Riot City, ACW, WrestleRampage. Those reviews are going to come. So keep an eye on the bplus.com for all of that. Now that we've looked at the shows I went to over the weekend, let's take a look at this week in wrestling news. Top of the news this week is, whoa, there is a lot of stuff to watch for Australian wrestling this week. A lot of stuff. Jackson Kelly, Jude the Dude London, and Aria all showed up on Channel 7's Take Me Out this week. Take Me Out is a dating show on Channel 7. Marty Skrull was actually on the British version of this, and now, of course, in Australia, we've got Jackson Kelly. Hopefully Jackson Kelly ends up becoming the name that Marty Skrull is. He's in good company there. But I didn't realize that Aria was also on this, so I knew Jackson Kelly was on it. I saw him on the ad, and I actually spoke to him about it in an interview a few weeks ago that you can go back and listen to in the archives. Jackson Kelly, we spoke briefly about this show, but he couldn't really reveal too many details. So when I saw that the show had aired, I jumped straight on, watched it, checked it out. He ended up having a little match with Jude the Dude London, which was really cool. So the premise of the show is the girls sort of turn off their lights if they're not turned on. So if they're not turned on by him, they turn off their lights. A bit crass, but you know, it is what it is. It's a dating show on TV. What do you expect? They turn off their lights if they're not interested, and if they are interested, they keep their lights on, and then he gets to choose between the ones who leave their lights on. It's a game, you know, you can tune in to watch it to see how it's played. I'll leave a link in the show notes. Now, Jude the Dude shows up, and he's like, none of these girls want to see you. They want to see Jude the Dude London, and they get into a little match. It takes about 30 seconds. I joked with Jackson that it was a half-star match. It didn't live up to the build, because they built it up, and then they did about 2 moves, and then that was it. He ate the boot, but not even to the head. He ate the boot to the backside. I'm going to guess that was a TV thing. They don't want people kicking each other in the head on prime time. But the shocking thing to me was that Aria was there. Aria, who is, of course, in Melbourne City Wrestling. She recently went on a date with Funtime Phil. I wonder how Funtime Phil is going to feel about Aria being on this dating show when their relationship is just starting to blossom. No one tell Phil. I feel bad for Phil. I mean, maybe they're polyamorous. I don't know. I don't know the situation. But Aria is on the show looking for love. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch all the episodes now because Aria's on it. So I want to see how things play out for Aria being the resident wrestler, as they called her in this episode. Very interesting stuff. I'll leave a link in the show notes. If you're into that kind of thing, I completely understand if you're not. But there was a little bit of wrestling on this one, so that's pretty cool. And hopefully it'll bring some more eyes to places like Nui Pro, IWA, where Jackson Kelly wrestles regularly. That would be really cool if it did. Moving on, while still talking about the plenty of things we have to watch this week for Australian wrestling, Underworld Wrestling 2 is now available on Pivot Share. So I got an email in the middle of the week that was like, hey, we're live. Underworld 2 is live, but we've made some changes. So this show is not the full show that was seen live that you can see the results for. If you're interested in spoilers, you can go to the bplus.com. You can look up Underworld 2. There are full results there from people who were at the show. However, this show that aired is different. So they sort of cut and pasted different matches in to make a logical show. And they're going to do the same next month. Instead of running one monthly show that they have to rush around trying to edit, trying to get it out, trying to make Amazon happy, trying to make the Kickstarter backers happy, they're going to run a show every couple of months and edit that show into a couple of shows for the Pivot Share for Amazon. It's a pretty cool system. Like, I'm fine with that. Like, as one of the backers, I feel like I should have a say. No, I think that I understand completely. I cannot even imagine. Like, all I do is this shitty little podcast. I cannot imagine how hard it is to put together a TV show that goes for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it's going to be. So, props to them. Whatever you guys need to do to make it work, the content you're putting out is fantastic. There was a little less story this time than I would have liked in this episode, but I will do a review for this one ultimately, so keep your eyes peeled on thebplus.com. Underworld Wrestling 2, as I said, it's available on PivotShare, $6.66 per month. It's a steal. You would expect with Lord Mark Williamson in charge that they'd be asking for your soul or something, but no, just $6.66 a month. That's all it takes, $6.66 a month, and you'll get every Underworld Wrestling show that there is. So that's pretty cool. Moving on, EPW Vendetta has also been made available on demand. That one is $9 per month for EPW's From the Vault service. That gives you every EPW show going way, way back into the archives. $9 a month is a steal. You can also purchase the show for $8 or rent it for $3. Similarly, Nui Pro Rumble has made its way into on demand. You can get that one at nuiproplay.com, and that one is $6.99 per month, and that includes PWA. So if you get that $7, you're going to get PWA Call to Arms, you're going to get the Nui Pro Rumble, and as well the archived content that they have. Alternately, you can purchase the show for $9.99. I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I don't know why you would be purchasing it for $9.99 when you could be getting every show they put out, $6.99 a month, and that's Nui Pro and PWA. It's a joint service. That is a really good deal to get those two promotions, two of the best companies in Australia, for just $6.99 a month. And speaking of PWA, they actually uploaded to YouTube the Four Nations vs. Velocity's tag team title match from Call to Arms, which took place last month. Of course, you can go back and listen to our preview cast, or you can just jump on YouTube and have a watch of the match yourself. It's a really, really good match. It, of course, spawned the viral gif of Paris De Silva doing the shooting star DDT. Amazing move. But just if you think that that's all the match was just that move, you are wrong. You are wrong. This was a fantastic match. You never get a Bonza match without some kind of story to it. Bonza's a real stickler for his stories, so you definitely want to be checking this match out. I will drop a link in the show notes. Speaking of the Four Nations, they are three. They are 3 of 6 competitors who went over to Chikara this weekend for Chikara's King of Trios. And our Four Nations guys, they made it to the final match. So King of Trios is a trios tournament where different teams of trios face off against one another. And you have the first round match, the second round match, the third round match, and the final. And they made it all the way to the final. They defeated the Cyberhawks, who were favorites for a lot of people. A lot of Chikara faithful really thought this year was the Cyberhawks' year. The Onaka gang, that's Rey Bucanero, PCO, and Katarina. And they defeated the Tokyo Joshi Freedom Fighters on night 3, ultimately getting into the final against the Colony, where they unfortunately lost. But for anyone who's not aware of King of Trios, it's one of the biggest tournaments that runs in America all year, if not the biggest and best. It's definitely my favorite. So, making it to the final is a big deal. Just to put it in perspective, 2015, the Bullet Club were the runners-up. You know, the Bullet Club, that's AJ Styles, Matt, and Nick Jackson, were the trio who came second in the King of Trios 3 years ago. So this is a big thing. Like, these guys are in good company when you're talking about, like, the Sendai Girls were runners-up last year. Yeah, it's no small feat to be the runners-up in King of Trios, and they're going to have a lot of eyes on them. It's really good. Congratulations to Adam Hoffman, Jack Bonza, and Mick Moretti. Ancient Order of the Nations was the name they were going by, but of course they are known to us better as the Four Nations from PWA, from Newcastle Pro, from all of Australian wrestling, really. They show up in World Series Wrestling as well. And they weren't the only guys that went over there. The Shimmer Collective, that is our very own Madison Eagles, Shazza McKenzie and Jessica Troy. They made their way over. They were representing Shimmer, but of course, they were also representing PWA. They were also representing Australia. They were also representing women. They were representing everything. I spoke to Shazza McKenzie about it. You can go back, way back. I think she was like my second or third interview. You can go way back in the archives to find that one. But we spoke about this because it had just been announced that they were going over. The Four Nations hadn't been announced yet, but they had been announced as going over. And I know that this was somewhat of a dream come true for Shazza McKenzie because Shazza is a huge Chikara fan. So really proud of her that she's managed to make that dream come true. Unfortunately, the Shimmer Collective were eliminated in the first round. They main evented night 1 against Miyu Yamashita, Shoko Nakajima, and Yuka Sakazaki from Tokyo Joshi Pro. Anyone who listens to my All the Rest episodes or my This Month in Pro Resu episodes knows that I am a huge fan of Tokyo Joshi Pro. It's right up there with Stardom as my favorite women's promotion, but Miyu Yamashita is an absolute star. But yeah, these guys unfortunately eliminated the Shimmer Collective in the first round. Of course, the Four Nations got revenge. There's a photo on our Instagram of the Four Nations pressing these 3 girls above their heads. It's a really good photo. But they got revenge for our eliminated girls, but don't count them out. They still had an amazing weekend. Shazza and Jessica Troy took part in some huge multi-person matches, and Madison on night 3 actually managed to get a submission victory over Mike Quackenbush. Lightning Mike Quackenbush, the master of 1,000 holds, tapped out to Madison Eagles. She is the true master of wrestling now. No one can dispute it. There's not anyone, man or woman, alive in the world who could dispute the fact that Madison Eagles is the master of wrestling after having submitted Mike Quackenbush. I'm sure some people will dispute it. Gavin McGavin, the real wrestler, he comes to mind. The real wrestler versus the master of wrestlers. That's one I'd like to see. But I digress. Big weekend for all 6 of these guys. Big congratulations are in order to Shazza McKenzie, Jessica Troy, Madison Eagles, Mick Moretti, Jack Bonza, and Adam Hoffman. Well done, guys. You did your country proud. You did us all proud. You're bringing more eyes to Australian pro wrestling. Really, really happy for you, and really, really happy for all the Aussie grapplers that are going to follow in your wakes, because the floodgates are about to open. Sorry, Mark Williamson. Copyright infringement, I know. The floodgates are about to open, and Australian wrestling is about to take over the world, and you guys are spearheading the charge. #NowWeConquer. Amazing stuff. Looking a little bit more locally, though, that happened over in the States this weekend, but also this weekend, one of my favourite stories that's been playing out over in Perth, Southern Hemisphere Wrestling Alliance, we call it Schwa. Felix Young defeated Tom Ledbetter and ousted him from Southern Hemisphere Wrestling Alliance. So Tom Ledbetter had taken over as owner a few years ago for the Southern Hemisphere Wrestling Alliance, and the Pulse, that's Felix Young and his compatriots, had taken exception to Tom's style of wrestling. So they're all about real wrestling, as they call it. They're not fans of sports entertainment. When I spoke to them on the show, they had a go at Tom for, the way he used to walk to the ring barking at people like it was some sort of game. Anyway, they had a match at Schwa's We're All Mad Here this last weekend, and it broke down very quickly. Ultimately, the Don Michael Morleone sided with the Pulse and helped them to win the match, meaning that Tom Ledbetter is no longer in control. He declared himself as being in control. He is, of course, the interim general manager. While this was all being sorted out, Michael Morleone had been granted interim general manager status as Tom Ledbetter prepared for this match and was to wrestle the match on this night. But now with Tom Ledbetter gone, Don Michael Morleone in control, who knows what's going to happen over in Schwa. It's very interesting. It is a very interesting territory to be paying attention to at the moment. They also have a video on demand service, so I'll link that in the show notes as well. You definitely want to get Schwa replay so you can see all this stuff playing out, because this is very interesting. I really like the story that they're telling over there, and I'm curious to see where it goes. Speaking of Felix Young, we did an interview with Felix Young, so you can always check that one out back in the archives as well. But last week, I forgot to mention it. Sometimes things skip past me. I don't see all the news all at once, but I saw it this week. New Valhalla Wrestling up in Queensland have announced their first ever championship match. It's going to take place on September 15th at Hammerfall, so that's next week. You got a limited amount of time now to get your tickets, but make sure you get your tickets. You can always join Club Loki to go to that one as well. That'll get you a year's worth of shows. It also gets you a free shirt and a Viking tankard. You can't get much cooler than that. It also gets you a lot of other things. I'm forgetting the whole thing right now. But tickets are available now for Hammerfall, and Felix Young is involved in this championship match. He could become the first ever New Valhalla Wrestling heavyweight champion when he takes on Rip Riley, Dallas Summers, and The Warship. That's going to be a really good match. Like I said, takes place September 15th at Hammerfall. Go to newvalhallarwrestling.com.au for information. Of course, there will be information on the bplus.com, and we will share information on Facebook as well. That's New Valhalla Wrestling. Felix Young's going to be there as well, looking to take that gold to add to his already growing collection of belts. Now, we have, of course, had some other match announcements this week. Iron Fist Pro have finalized their card for their inaugural event, which takes place September 28th here in Adelaide. That's at the Published Art House. It looks like a fantastic show. I've been talking about this one since their very first talent announcement as Jonah Rock and Hideki Suzuki. I've been talking about this one for months now. I'm really looking forward to it. We're getting close. We're getting close to crunch time. It's probably going to be the last show I go see before heading to Melbourne for the Super Showdown. So this is on September 28th. They've finalized the card. Of course, as I mentioned, Hideki Suzuki takes on Jonah Rock in the main event. We also have Indy Hartwell versus Joni May in the first women's match for Iron Fist Pro. We have Adam Brooks taking on AJ Istria. The Velocities take on the team of Mike Boomer and their human bullet Link Barnett. That's going to be crazy, high-flying action. Dean Valenti takes on Ricky South. As I mentioned last week, Ricky South said this is going to be the best-smelling match in wrestling. I love Ricky South. His Twitter is fun. We also found out this week we are going to get the Prodigy Tommy Knight taking on the wrestling veteran Davis Storm from Perth, and a fatal four-way match between Robbie Hart, Rat Daddy, Nick Golfus, and Tyler Trench. That is a stacked card. It's going to be really fun. Look for me there. I'll probably be wearing my Support Indie Wrestling shirt, because hopefully I'll buy an Iron Fist Pro shirt if they have them available, but we'll see what happens. Get out, support a local grappler. Get out, support Iron Fist Pro. It looks like a really fun show, and bringing over Hideki Suzuki, he's the Big Japan Strong World Champion. You know, he's amazing catch wrestling. It's everything I love about wrestling. His style is amazing. If you haven't heard of him, Iron Fist Pro shared a highlight clip this week. You definitely want to check that out. You want to buy your ticket, you want to go to the show, you want to watch him wrestle, and you want to support this company so that they can bring out more amazing international talents. I'm sure they're going to be talking to people for show 2, because you got to follow up Hideki Suzuki. You got to follow that up with something big. So I'm not sure who it's going to be. I'm hoping that they're going to bring over some of the Tokyo Joshi girls to take on Joni May, to take on Indy Hartwell. I would love to see a gateway to Tokyo Joshi or Stardom open up. Stardom might be a bit... I don't know. I really want to see this happen. But I digress. Let's move on to some other... Melbourne City Wrestling also made some match announcements this week, as did EPW. Those are going to be covered later, because when we break down this weekend's shows, those shows are this weekend, so we'll talk about them when we break down the shows. EPW, though, in other news, their end-of-year awards poll is up, so if you want to vote, there will be a link in the show notes so you can vote on the various, Wrestler of the Year, Rookie of the Year, things like that. I will drop a link in the show notes for you. If you are an EPW watcher, you definitely want to be getting on there and submitting your votes for those end-of-year awards, so that Gavin McGavin, the real wrestler, can go back to back. He's the EPW champion now. We want him to go back to back. Wrestler of the Year 2 years in a row. Come on, let's do it. Vote for Gavin McGavin. You know what? I'm gonna put my finger on the scale here. If you listen to this show, but you don't necessarily watch EPW, you haven't had a chance yet, you're gonna have to take my word for it and vote for Gavin McGavin as Wrestler of the Year, because I want to see him go back to back, man. I just can't wait to see him brag about that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, Riot City Wrestling champion. The Riot City Wrestling champion, Chris Basso, world class Chris Basso, the cornerstone. Chris Basso has been announced for World Series Wrestling. He's been on World Series Wrestling before, of course, at the pay-per-view. He took on Nick Armstrong. That's where all this stuff with Nick's chick boiled over a little when they did their little Titanic moment. And that actually culminated at RCW 200. And in the match for the contract for her managerial services, we found out her name is Selena. We found out that she has a name, that she is a real living, breathing woman with wants and desires. She ripped up her managerial services contract. The sky's the limit for Selena. No one knows what she's going to do next. But you can hear all about that on my talk with Wolfdog that I released yesterday, where we recapped everything that happened at RCW 200. Once again, if you hit subscribe, you're going to get all of these. If you go onto iTunes, give us a 5-star review, and hit subscribe, you're going to get all of these shows. You're going to hear all about everything that's happening in Australian wrestling. But yeah, Chris Basso has been announced for World Series Wrestling. This tour that's coming up in November is probably the most stacked tour they've done. It's got Chris Basso now. It has Mick Moretti, Shazza McKenzie, Robbie Eagles, Concrete Davidson, Jonah Rock, Jack Bonzo, Indy Hartwell, Slex, Tone Philippe, Adam Brooks, Cody and Brandy Rhodes, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. NWA World Heavyweight Champion Cody Rhodes is coming to Australia with the title, along with, Austin Aries with his Impact title, Brian Cage with his X Division title and his Warrior Championship title. You got PWG World Heavyweight Champion and Progress World Heavyweight Champion and Defiant Internet Champion Walter. There's a lot of gold on this tour. WWN Live Champion, Bad Boy, Joey Janela, who I don't know how he is alive after taking that table bump with the rites of passage from Adam Page, but he's coming out here too. There's a lot of gold on this tour. There's a lot of talent on this tour. Our guys are going to steal the show every night, as they do. World Series Wrestling coming up, and Chris Basso has been added to the tour, so that's fantastic. Now, let's go ahead and listen to the interview I sat down earlier this week to talk with Massive Q. It's a bit of a freewheeling interview. We talk about him being on TV the other day for a quiz show called Pointless. We talk about getting into wrestling. We talk about everything. We go all over the place. So let's tune in and listen. I don't even know what's going to make it into this conversation because I got to edit it somewhere to put a stop point on this week and then pick up next week for part 2 of the interview. So this is part 1 of 2 with Massive Q. Check it out. I am joined at this time by Massive Q. Q, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. I saw you on telly yesterday afternoon.
Yes, that we recorded an episode. Me and my dear sweet old mother went on the TV quiz show Pointless on Channel 10. It was filmed about a month and a half ago now, and there was actually 2 episodes because they give you a second chance if you bomb out in the first show, which we did because my mother doesn't know Pixar movies, which is fine. Although she was very annoyed about that after that happened. She felt really stupid, but then she got good answers in the next time, so it was fine.
Yeah, I only caught the second half because I got a call from my dad, and he's like,
"Yeah,
you're a Massive Q."
Yes.
And I'm like, yes, I'm actually interviewing him tomorrow.
Exactly.
And it's like, he's on the telly. I'm like, oh, okay. So he tells me what channel. I tune in, and I caught the latter half, and you mentioned you need new wrestling boots. That's what you were going to use the prize money on?
That was, okay. Honestly, probably actually not. I mean, I do need wrestling boots, but I probably wouldn't have gone to that, but I felt that at the time that fed into the persona that I was sort of playing up to.
Okay, makes sense.
It's a bit more complicated to say. Well, I might need a wrestling outfit and then put some of it into flights or maybe some new patterns. It's just wrestling. People understand wrestling boots. People understand that wrestling boots are a thing, and that they might.
Yeah, so you needed the nice little soundbite answer.
Exactly. Yes, because it wasn't an interview. It wasn't an interview show like this where I can go into detail and actually explain things to an audience who understands what I'm talking about. I'm having to sort of play down to the masses, as it were.
Yeah, well, look, it was really fantastic to see you. You weren't the only wrestler on TV last night. I also saw Jackson Kelly on TV, which was shocking.
Yes,
on a dating show. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
and Jude the Dude as well.
Yeah, versus Jude the Dude. I just sort of, because I was afterwards, and I was like, everyone's going to be talking about me, and it's like, oh no, there's actual wrestling on the show. Oh well.
Yeah, because they actually wrestled.
Exactly. It wasn't just sort of them answering questions. They actually did stuff. So which is awesome, and I'm all for that, and I'm glad that they did. It's just annoying that it happened on the same night.
It is, yeah, that they'd put it on the same night, right? But I messaged Jackson and told him it was a half-star match. It didn't quite live up to the build. It wasn't. I thought that the build sort of amped me up for something that just didn't end up delivering. Yeah. So I mean, always the critic.
But also just the fact that it's just like wrestling when it's put together on a show that's not wrestling, and by people who aren't wrestlers, like edited, is all. It can sometimes be fine, but it's often just slightly off because I don't think a lot of people. I'm thinking more about back when I did Beauty and the Geek, when we did the a few years ago, with the edit, we had a bunch of where we had to wrestle the geeks, and we actually walked them through 90-second, 2-minute, 3-minute matches. I mean, actually, some of them were a bit sort of, but a couple of them actually understood it. The 2 I worked with were pretty good, but we actually worked them through legitimate matches, and then you watch the show, and they edited it all up and they stuck it all together, and it works for them. But it's not really wrestling. It's not. Wrestling is a unique art form. It's something I always say. and it can be a challenge for people who aren't wrestlers or don't understand the concept to sort of edit it different. I don't know. I see the difference, but I mean, obviously, a lot of people don't. But I don't know, I'm just getting on a rant. I do that a lot.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's one of the things that frustrates a lot of people about WWE programming as well, is especially like in the mid 2000s, 2010s or whatever. They brought in a lot of TV writers and TV producers, and it's like, well, they're two different things. You kind of still need to actually understand wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like, I'm not trying to shit on anyone. Like, I think that anyone who's creative can work out wrestling. It's complicated, but it's not really once you learn it. And so it's like bringing a lot of TV writers and then not having them learn and not having them adjust. Just like, I know that sort of the old school sort of drizzled bit that only wrestlers understand wrestling, and you gotta be someone who's laced up the boots and stepped in the ring to truly understand the show. And it's like, you don't have to. It helps, like, understanding the process, or at least, and that helps. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's saying that you can totally book and write and produce wrestling if you've never stepped in the ring, as long as you understand, as long as you take the time to understand it and you trust people who do. So it's especially in like WWE. It's not so much of the TV writers, but the TV writers who aren't trusting the road agents and stuff, and they're not sort of like working with the talent who understands what they're doing. I think that's right. It's a standoff issue. Is where I think it all. Again, it's not so much the TV writers, but the TV writers who aren't working with the wrestlers. They're just telling the wrestlers what to do, and that's the issue, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's where it falls apart. So you got to kind of let the wrestlers have their input. Absolutely. You're someone who's been doing this for a while though, as well. I mean, you're actually one of my first memories of Aussie wrestling.
Yeah, it's distressing how many people say that. I started training in 2005, and then my first year was 2006. I only had like 3 matches.
Yeah, a lot of people probably will say that, because when you Google Australian wrestling, well, for a long time, I don't know if it still does, but it was the AWF that would come up.
Absolutely.
And then you'd go to Supernova or any of these places that AWF would be. I actually went to actual AWF show at, I think it would have been PCYC in Penrith.
Yeah, we've worked they worked the Penrith PCYC a few times now. Yeah, the AWF sort of moves around a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm not sort of, like, I understand, it's totally cool. I can understand that just like I've had young guys in Newcastle go like, oh, I remember as a kid, sort of, I was like 12 years old and I went to like Campbelltown and I saw you wrestling. It's just like, they were like a grown man now, and I was like, oh, okay. I've been doing this a while.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was a kid and my dad took me to the local wrestling at like Rudy Hill RSL or whatever it was, that when I was a kid, that wasn't you. You were still, you were still fresh faced at that point
exactly,
too.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, it was like the guys in the clown. I can't remember their names. I remember there was people in clown face paint and masks. And
I would
stuff.
assume that would be Il Tornado. The Freak Show was Il Tornado, also known as Ricochet. Myself, Harley Wonderland, and then there's a few other people like Thompson and Xander Battery and Mortis. Who's still kicking around.
So you were actually around in that group?
Yes, that was when I was the Australasian champion. Was when I had the
well, there you go.
Show backing me up. And now it's pretty much just me and Harley now. Free Show OG.
Yeah. See, you're even before my first cognizant memory of Aussie wrestling. You're also involved in my previous, like, kind of blurry memory of Aussie wrestling. Wow. So it's
Well,
been a while.
It's been a while. I think he wrestled as Il Tornado, and then he was actually involved in a car accident, and then he had to stepped away for a while, and then when he came back, that's when I worked with him in sort of his second go round. But yeah, it's like and honestly, I probably should have started earlier, because like as a kid, I took Mick Foley's advice slightly too much and actually finished uni before I started, and I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have started when I was like 18, like a lot of the guys who start now are like 18, 19, 20. And I started when I was 24. So right. I probably, because that's just sort of when people sort of hear that I'm deciding to not to be age myself too much, but I'm currently 36. So I've been wrestling for about 10, 12 years, and I probably should have been wrestling for about 15, 16 by now. Because I probably should have started as a kid. But Foley in one of Foley's book, he was like, as a wrestler, you should have a university degree, you should have a backup. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went to university, got a degree, and then started.
Well, what he didn't say is, you can always just make counts on the weekend.
Exactly, yeah. The AWF training. Exactly. The AWF, I should have been. That's what I should have been doing. But then I was doing uni work and I was working part time. So it would have been a challenge. But when you're young, you're full of energy. You can do that sort of stuff.
Yeah. No, I look at myself in my 20s and I'm like, I could have done so much more.
Yeah,
I had so much energy
exactly,
then.
Yes, it's rare the person looks back and goes, "Geez, I should have slowed down a bit."
No.
But there are a couple. I mean, I'm sure Jack Bonzo will probably think that in a few years. Which sounds like a drag on him, and it's not. It's just that Jack Bonzo does a lot. Jack Bonzo is a very busy gentleman.
What a man, though.
Yeah,
what a
man. One might even say he's a real man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, look, so going back, so you were a staple at AWF for a long time, but lately you've been working more for one of my favourite companies in New South Wales. You've primarily been seen at Wrestling Go.
Yes.
So how did that move come about?
It was just for a long time. AWF didn't run or ran very sporadically, and there was actually a period where it just kept interfering with other things. Because obviously, I have a life outside of wrestling, shot horror, and so there
how
was.
How dare you?
I know. How dare I? How I'm a whole person. And so there was a good run of time when the shows just kept interfering with other shows that I'd already committed to, or family events that I dropped out of, or other stuff I was doing. And so, by the time that sort of period happened, and then I took some time off at the end of sort of last year, beginning of this year, to heal up a bit. So I missed a few shows and by the time sort of all that had happened, I was mainly working Go in sort of the ongoing angle we have now. And also in Newcastle, where I'm in the Armada, and it's just there's only so many hours in the day, so many weekends, and so I kind of felt that if I didn't want to be sporadically just appearing for AWF and not being able to do to give enough to it, and I felt that I wouldn't be able to do that, so I've actually sort of stepped away from the AWF now. I'm not sort of automatically saying that I'll never wrestle there again. But at the moment, I'm mainly focused on Go, which is just they've just run more often. Also, there's the whole angle that we're doing now with the big 10-man tag that's coming up at United, which I'm sure I'll be plugging later on, and then also Nui Pro. That's sort of my main focuses right now. And then it's just if stuff changes or stuff opens up more, then maybe down the line. But at the moment, I'm sort of focused on Go as being sort of the more regular and sort of the one where I may have the storyline is pretty deep into it now, and so bailing now would suck. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the thing I love about Wrestling Go is the story focus, and it reminds me a lot of Chikara.
Yes, I think that's
just in the general wacky fun
and the vibe,
good times.
That was I don't know if Chikara was the stated sort of influence, but it was certainly when it was founded and when it was running on, it was intended to be the family friendly sort of storyline focus. The way you have a 24/7 title that's a watermelon. It's a bit hard to run sort of
my favorite title in Australian wrestling.
It is Sit Some Jam, baby. And which I just love to the fact that now my name appears either side of Victoria's in the title history, and that's canon, and that can never be changed. And that's just she's my favorite wrestler of all time. It's like, I'm happy. I'm done. I can leave.
It's fantastic. Yeah,
yes.
You're done. Retire happy.
Exactly. But I'm not going to. But right now. But I could. Yes. I love Wrestling Go sort of atmosphere, and it sort of has that family friendliness, but it's also allows you to sort of experiment and sort of just take chances, but in a good way. Not like I'm going to do 650 off the balcony chances, but being able to have some freedom to test out stuff and sort of explore what you can and can't do in the ring as a character work.
Yeah, absolutely, and character work's super important, and as well the family focus, the family friendly atmosphere is something that I think we forget about in wrestling because we look back to what for us, I guess, our generation is the golden years, the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
And that's not very family friendly necessarily.
No.
And you kind of forget how one of my favorite things in Australian wrestling that you're actually involved with Iron J and Mighty Mel and the superhero wrestling.
Yes,
where you guys actually do kids' parties.
Yes, the Super Wrestling Heroes. Actually, I've got one on this Saturday, actually, that we're doing. And yeah, just that was actually, that started as like a byproduct, because Benny, Iron J, Benny Coles, after the, well, it wasn't a lawsuit, but like, yeah, they were, like, Iron J actually sort of, Iron J, the company, were like, we're happy for you to mention that you're in the ads, but we prefer you not to use the name in your other projects. And it was like, that's fine. So it's Benny Coles.
Yeah.
So that sort of started off as just like a side gig, and it has taken on a life of its own, and that's a lot of fun because I get to sort of interact with the kids sort of more directly, and sometimes it can be a bit of a slog. I'll like, if anyone who's had to plan a kids party knows. I mean, we're lucky. We can come in, we handle them for an hour, we tire them out, and then there you go, and then just hand them back, and we leave. So we don't have to sort of deal with all the other sort of stuff that happens with kids. But yeah, it's a lot of,
you get just the good stuff.
Exactly. We come in and we just play around with them. We wrestle them for a bit. They try and punch me in the nuts a lot because they're just they're young boys, and it's like I can hit you, and it's allowed and awesome. And it's like
and they just happen to be at that height level. So it's
exactly that's part of the issue. And plus, do they see that punching me in the leg has no effect, so they go, oh, I know what'll happen anyway. Yeah, because it's actually. Yeah, there's been one time where it's been legitimately sort of that he pretty much gave me like a dragon uppercut, and it was just like, and luckily it was right at the end, so I was able to like, okay, show's over, goodbye everybody, I'm fine, and just go into the SS. And just
yeah, your voice just went up an octave or two,
exactly,
but you're fine.
Went and sat in the car for 20 minutes, just to sort of recenter, as it were. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I'm getting to do other stuff that I wouldn't necessarily do as a wrestler, which is cool. Although I'm the only sort of guy who's involved sort of often, who's actually still wrestling. So that's a nice. It's good to have the connection still.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it's great because it can create. Like something like that will create a new generation of fans, and I think that's always important to be interacting with. That you need to have a product out there that's kid friendly,
absolutely,
so that otherwise, what happens in 20 years? There's no one to watch anymore.
And especially like in Sydney right now, you've got PWA running the sort of the 18 plus adult crowd, and you got Wrestling Go as the family friendly. I think that's a good balance. It's good to have multiple options. Like, because there's always going to be the audience who wants the violence, who wants the over the swearing, who wants the over the top sort of I'm going to kill you, motherfucker, type wrestling.
Yeah.
But it's good to have the sort of the more family focus. I don't like you, and we're going to fight, and it's going to be awesome. It's good to have that balance. It's good to have the options. It's
really interesting to see the characters that work in both settings as well. Yeah. So your people like Matty Wahlberg makes it work for both crowds, or Big Fudge is he's over huge with both crowds.
Yes.
It's very interesting to see the differences in the working styles between the two.
Absolutely, because that's pretty good, because and that allows them to sort of explore the characters and work out, sort of see both sides of the coin. Allows you to explore what's central to the character, what's the character aspects that works for everything, and then how can I adjust that to the adult crowd? How does it adjust that to the kid crowd? And where's the overlap, and what's the central tenets of the character, and that's really useful, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're talking about central tenets of character. I'm hearing the writer. So you mentioned that you do have a life outside of wrestling, and I know you do a bit of writing.
Yes, I for a long time actually I've done wrestling writing. I've done non-wrestling writing. For a long time I did a column. I did a couple of different columns, but the one I'm most quote-unquote famous for in the IWC is I wrote Ask for Wonder in Wrestling, which was a wrestling trivia Q&A column for many years. And so a lot of people sort of like, I'm actually fairly well known as a person, but not as a wrestler. Even though I constantly was one of the running jokes in the column was where whenever I mentioned that I was a wrestler, I would put a YouTube video of a liquid song. So like, I start off as drink. It was like, I mentioned I'm a wrestler. Take a shot, and then it just evolved into like, I'm a wrestler. Red wine. I'm a wrestler. Tequila. So on and so forth. Although I did actually hit, I did end my run there a few months ago, just because it was getting just the whole sort of too much going on, and I just felt like I was not repeating myself, but I was at the point where everyone knew my opinions. I'd answered pretty much all the major sort of obvious / somewhat easily identifiable stuff, and then I was only left with the stupid, the regurgitated, or the impossible to answer. Like there was a question that sat there for a long time. Like, when was the first table spot in wrestling? I'm like, how the hell do you answer that? Like,
wow.
Yeah. It's just, the problem is that I got too good at it. Because I was just people like I was able to research, and I was able to just, my Google flu was strong, as I say. And
yes.
I got some really good resources and stuff, and I just sort of like, and I made an effort, and it wasn't always right, it wasn't always complete, but I made efforts, and people respected that for some reason. And people liked my writing, but it just got to the point where I just was repeating. I mean, I'm actually feeling the budget in slightly, but I don't want to sort of step on people's toes and stuff. But I don't know. The door is not completely closed on that. But the other one that the writing I do now that I can plug is there's a blog called 1/10 of a Picture, where I post a 100-word short story, which is known as a drabble. And I'm actually in the moment, and I'm in the process of collating the first 450 or so, plus 50 ones I haven't published online, to put into an ebook. So that's sort of the main project going on at the moment. I'm just sort of slowly editing it, because I hate editing myself.
I saw that, and I thought it was really cool. So it's called a drabble. That's actually a thing. Like, I've never heard of that before.
It's it began, as I understand it, by of all people, Monty Python. It was like a joke in one of their books that they put out. It was quote unquote a parlor game. The idea was supposedly like, as a parody of parlor games, it was the first person to write a novel, and then the joke was that in order for the purposes of time, the novel is 100 words. And it sort of evolved into, it was actually semi-popular sort of in the nascent days of, like, the net 0.8,
right,
where people would post short stories, and the idea was that drabble would evolve into exactly 100 words. I actually encountered it in a Terry Pratchett collection of short stories that he put out sort of near the end. I forget the name of it, unfortunately. It's up in my room somewhere. Where it was just, I am a huge Terry Pratchett fan, and it was like close to the story. And then at one point it brought up, they actually wrote a 100 word story, and he brought it up that he wrote this drabble, and I was like, drabble? What's a drabble? So I looked it up online. I was like, oh, okay. And the thing was that I had
and then you went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, pretty much. And just the thing is, I had a couple of ideas that sort of like the very first ones that were stuck in my head for years about. There was like a couple of plots and a couple of scenes I thought that will make a good movie or a good game or whatever. But they just sat there because I just didn't have the time to write a movie or the know-how to design a game in that context.
Yes. Yeah.
So the idea was, from my point of view, is that okay, I'll work them into a 100-word short story, and I'll publish them. I'll put up online, and then if I'm still thinking about them later on, which I am with some of them, and some of them I'm not, I can then I can always come back to it and rework it. But at least I've done something with them, and I can maybe think of more. So the couple of the very first ones were ideas that I had for years, and I still do, like MPDG, which is like the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, but reversed, where instead of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl coming in and like breaking up the same boring guy's life, it's like the idea of like the Manic Pixie Dream Girl coming in and the guy calming her down, which I always thought was because I think that would be an interesting movie, just in my personal opinion, just to basically mainly to be a takedown for the Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
That's kind of what happens in Dharma and Grey, right?
It's not unheard of in the thing, but it's just. But the idea was made to be a parody of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl concept, and those movies just like
flip it on its head.
Exactly. And then obviously different stuff would happen because again I've thought about the plot for a while. I know what I'm doing in that thing, but the idea was that I hadn't been thinking of anything else, so I put that in. I made that into a short story. put that up. And then I put up a couple of them, and I was like, oh, now is that it, or do I have any more? And then I went, oh, actually, yeah. And I came up with another one, and it's been, 3 or 4 years now, and I'm still going. And some days I'm under the wire, like 11:59, and I'm managing to splurt out 100 words. But it's an interesting challenge. It's like I'm having to come up with something every day, and it's interesting, and I'm still enjoying.
This is another way to flex the creative muscle.
Exactly, yeah. Because it's like I have a weird relationship with deadlines in that I hate them, but I don't like. I kind of work with them, but I only work with them sort of when they're very close up. Like I like if you tell me to do something within 2 weeks, I will do most of it the day before, which I think is very common. But I can't. I'd almost as if I can't start before that point. It's it's probably just because of the whole like I would do like my wrestling column. I used to write it like the night before it went up, and so I'm just used to I'm used to sort of having things don't kick in until like 12 hours before the deadline. That's when you do it, which is not healthy, I know, but
I'm very much the same. I'm very much the same. We're recording this a week before it's going to come out. I'll probably be editing it until 4 a.m. the morning of its release.
Exactly, yes.
That's just how I roll.
That's fair enough. Just that's the time to do it. That's the time and that way you get it done. You're not sort of sitting going and maybe if I change this bit or that bit, just like no, it's gotta happen. Just get it out there, and then oftentimes the ones that I've spent the most time on, I post them, just sit there, and then it's the ones that I just sort of madly rush out at the last second, like, oh my god, this is awesome, and it's the ones that get attention. So it's a weird and wonderful way that creative.
Well, when creating, I find it's best to like just let it roll through you anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. If you overthink it, then that can be an issue. Like you need to obviously put some mental energy behind it, but at the end of the day, it's a process that you have to sort of be able to just let it happen as opposed to trying to force it.
Right. So, but seeing your thing with the drabbles, which I found very interesting, I thought was a really cool idea. I didn't realize it was a thing that's been around, but seeing that made me think, what would a drabble be for wrestling?
Oh, it's an interesting concept. I'm just like, I've done like some wrestling themed drabbles. I've done like a couple of them. One of them is the one that I remember is I'm stalling, you see, to think about that. I wrote one of them where it was like the monologue of the wrestler, wrestling with the greenhorn, and at the end of it, he gets paralyzed in the story. Spoiler. Yeah, I think a wrestling drabble would probably be something where maybe even something like that they're doing with Underworld, where it would probably be a strict time limit, probably like 5 minutes, and you'd have like the low concept or the high concept. The low concept would be 5 minutes. You have only 5 minutes, and then you'd probably have like a point system where if you get a knockout or a submission is worth X points. Again, like Underworld does. Pinfalls are worth less than you have draws. So the idea is you're trying to get as much done in that time frame as possible, and you're trying to get things done quickly. So the idea would be the storyline would be people learning the big shots and just going full balls to the wall immediately. The alternative would be something where, like, if you wanted the high concept would be where if you said that you had a limited number of moves in a match, like if you.
That's what I was thinking. Like you pick 3 spots.
Yeah. Or even like something where like you like there'd be like a scoreboard where you have like 10 slams, 20 strikes, 5 reversals, 2 finishes, and a weapon shot. And every time you do something, it counts down. And once it's been used up, you can't do that anymore, or else you'll be disqualified. Or maybe maybe. And so like the idea is that it's less about time frame, is more in terms of like the whole one of the things about the drabble is that you're limited by word count. It's 100 words, not including the title. So that'd be the way to sort of think, is where you're trying to work out how to defeat your opponent with a finite number of ways to do it, and they're slowly whittling down as you go. So
because time-wise, you could pace a 100-word story so that you tell it over 5 minutes still, but you could, but it's still 100 words. Yes. So I think the move thing is makes. I want to see that wrestling go. I want a drabble match. I want it to happen now. We're gonna make it happen, Q.
All right. Well, either that or maybe like we contact Wrestling Underworld and like they have like a sister promotion, Wrestling Overworld, where it's like angelic sort of we're focused on the art of wrestling, and we feel the ability for people to do whatever they want is impugning on the artistic spirit, and that's why art thrives under challenge, and art thrives under restriction, and that's why we have restricted your moves.
Be the ultimate light side to Underworld's dark side.
They have their own two titles, and then invariably at some point they're going to have to interact and end the world again, which is what Underworld's trying to do, I believe. Yeah,
it's not the end of the world; it's the end of all things.
Of course, all things. Yes,
not just the world. Yeah, I love Lord Mark Williamson and everything they're doing down there. It's so entertaining.
I've worked with Williams. He managed me for a while in AWF, and I don't always agree completely with him on certain things. Like we have slightly different outlooks on life in certain regards, but he's a very smart guy. I do like him, and he's doing some. Him and Carlo Cannon, I think, are the sort of the main driving forces behind Underworld. I might be wrong about that. Apologies if I am. But Underworld is a very interesting concept, and especially because I think Australian wrestling is such that you can do that. You can have experimental sort of alternate takes on wrestling, which I think is really healthy. Because like the thing about Australian wrestling that I've always sort of maintained is that it's a fairly unique duck in the professional wrestling world, because we're kind of everything at once, in the sense that we're not as stylized as like Japan or Mexico or Europe is, but we have a bit of everything. Like you have wrestlers who are more sort of Japanese style, you have wrestlers who are more Mexican, wrestlers who are more European, and like the North American style. It's all sort of merged together, and you get a lot more variety in the Australian wrestling show than you would elsewhere, I believe, unless you're going to a show that's like something like Lucha Fantastica, obviously, which is different. But then again, they're just they're doing Lucha. We're doing all Lucha, and so people who like Lucha can go to Lucha, or what have you. But Australian wrestling, just like I've wrestled sort of European grapplers. I've wrestled Mexican luchadors. I've wrestled Japanese sort of strong style guys, and it's you learn to adjust. And I think that's one of the reasons like Australian wrestlers are starting to really get noticed. I think there's going to be a slow uptake, because the moment you drop like guys like Jonah Rock and Robbie Eagles and PWG and stuff, and like the Tins of Trios that has just happened with the Four Nations reaching the finals, which is amazing. But I think that there's going to be a moment coming up probably in a few months when Australians start getting booked slightly more consistently overseas. There's going to be a point where that's just going to raise slowly, and there's going to be an explosion when everyone finds out, oh shit, these Aussies can work with anyone. And then we're going to be off to the races at that point. Because I think the minute that the world realizes that Australians can put on a great match with pretty much anyone, the sky's the limit. That's my prediction. Probably like 2019, like sort of early to mid 2019, you're really going to start to see Australians really start to take over the world.
So there you have it, part 1 of 2 with massive Q. Next week we're going to talk some more about pro wrestling and writing and all that fun stuff, leading into a conversation about Wrestling Go United, which takes place next week. Definitely tune in next week to hear part 2, the back end of that conversation. And as always, if you like listening to interviews with our very own Aussie Grapplers, make sure you check out On the Turnbuckle, our friends over in Melbourne. Wrestle Radio Australia also usually do Aussie Grappler interviews, but they're on hiatus this week as they prepare for something next week. I'm not too sure why, but there's no episode this week. On the Turnbuckle, however, it's a big one. Adam Brooks stops in to talk to the boys about his match coming up at MCW's Fight to Survive. It's his big return. He just made his return over in Riot City Wrestling this last weekend, and now he's headed to Melbourne City to make his return there. Adam Brooks is coming home, and the On the Turnbuckle boys are going to have a chat to him about it, so make sure you check that out. I will drop a link, as ever, in the show notes. But now let's take a look at what's going on around the country this weekend. In New South Wales, IWA Wrestle Revolution 2 Tour kicks off on Friday. That's Friday and Saturday night. Club Singleton on Friday, Tamworth Regional Entertainment and Conference Centre on Saturday. It features all your favourite IWA talents: Jackson Kelly, The Turkish Delight, Mehmet, Full Force Matt Rogers, Party Boy Jax Jordan, Headhunter Rig and Randall. Night 2 will be headlined by Chris Abbott, who is cashing in his fighting spirit favour from winning the State of Origin to get a title shot against Jonah Rock. Abbott's been in a bit of a rut lately, but after picking up a big win over Loverboy at Fighting Spirit, he's going to try to carry that momentum forward and topple the King of Monsters in his backyard of Tamworth. If you're in the area, you don't want to miss this one. So Friday at Club Singleton, tickets start at $14. Saturday in Tamworth, tickets start at $19. Also on Saturday night in New South Wales, AWF take over the Boldface Stag for AWF at the Stag 4. With TNT defending his Commonwealth title against the Misfit, tickets are $25. That one, of course, being at the Boldface Stag, is an 18-plus event. Australian Pro Wrestling Gym head to Club Bondi Junction RSL on Saturday night. Alistair McLear takes on Roswell. Sam Osborne goes one-on-one with Diego Redamales. The Plastics, Jason Dewhurst and Nikki Van Blair, face off with Paris De Silva and Danger Paul. And Mr. Christmas takes on everyone's favourite drunken masked pirate, Caesar. Tickets are $15 at the door. For our Western Australian friends, Saturday night we have All Action Wrestling Super Clash for free. It's completely free. It's a completely free event. So the AAW president, James Grace, announced at the last show that he was making Super Clash free to stick it to Tom Ledbetter. So Tom Ledbetter has vowed that someone's going to pay, but no one is going to have to pay to get into the event. It's completely free. You have no excuses to not go down to the Baldivis Recreation Centre this Saturday night for All Action Wrestling Super Clash. The show features an I Quit match for the AEW Championship between Shark and Kincaid. The No Limits title is also on the line when Felix Young defends against Ryan Allen, and much, much more. Once again, this is a free show. It takes place at the Baldivis Recreation Centre on Saturday night. On Sunday, though, EPW go to the Aberdeen Hotel for EPW at the Dean. There will be a gauntlet match to determine the number one contender to the Real Wrestler Gavin McGavin's EPW Championship. At the time of recording, the only name announced for that gauntlet match is Julian Ward. Unfortunately, I'm not sure who the other competitors will be, but if you log on to the Facebook at EPW Explosive Pro Wrestling, you will be able to see who else has been announced for the gauntlet match. All the names should be out by the time you hear this episode. Ryan Allen returns to EPW from his knee injury for an interview. Alex Kingston takes on Damian Slater, and Marcus Pitt takes on Logan Gray, both in one-on-one action, ahead of their tag team ladder match at Reawakening. And the block finals for the oldest tournament in Australian professional wrestling, the EPW Invitational, will take place when Gorgeous Gary tackles Tyler Jacobs and Kyle Steria takes on Taylor King. Tickets for that one are $20. In my home state of South Australia, Pro Wrestling South Australia present Friday night fights at the arena in Paraka. Tickets are $10 for that one. I couldn't find a card, so it's your guess is as good as mine as to what matches are going to be taking place. I'm going to take a week off from going to live wrestling this week. I still have a lot of work to catch up on, but PWSA Friday night fights at the arena in Paraka. Up in Canberra, CPW Indestructible at the Canberra PCYC is going down this Saturday night. CPW Heavyweight Championship is on the line between Rob Messenger and Warpath. Alex Irvine will challenge Adrian Axton for the CPW Inter-Suburb Championship, and much, much more. Tickets start at $10. Victoria this weekend, we have MCW Fight to Survive. That's on Saturday the 8th of September at the MCW Arena in Essendon. Adam Brooks makes his Melbourne City Wrestling return to take on Stevie Phillip. Avery goes one-on-one with Taylor Rose. JK Moody debuts against Richie Taylor. The future classic Tone Philippe looks to remain undefeated when he goes one-on-one with one of the hardest-hitting men in pro wrestling, Mike Burr. The Brat Pack will defend their tag team titles against the Men for Hire, and in the main event, 10-man tag team elimination match, Survivor Series style, we got Team Gene on one side, the Dow Dogs on the other, that is Gino Gambino, Loverboy, and Helter Skelter, versus Dowie James, TK, Funtime Phil, JXT, and Robbie Eagles. Remaining tickets are general admission only, and they are $20, so make sure you head on out and check this one out. It is 80s, 90s themed, it's all retro, so if you want to dress up, you could win a prize on the night, a DVD pack that they're giving away for people who dress up for best costume on the night. You just got to dress as anyone from 80s or 90s wrestling. Very exciting. I can't wait to see all the Instagram photos of people dressed up like their favorite 80s and 90s wrestling characters. Also this week, the BCW Extreme Battle Tour continues. It happens tonight. That's Friday the 7th of September in Sydney at the Italian Forum Cultural Centre in Leichhardt. According to Facebook, you're going to see the franchise one-on-one with Masato Tanaka, Mad Dog vs. Sabu, RVD will defend his BCW championship against Tajiri. The women's and tag titles are both on the line in six-man action when women's champion Melina teams with the challengers The Lads to take on Indy Hartwell and the tag team champions Gabriel Wolf and Tom Phillip, The Kingdom. That's a really interesting concept. So we've got two teams walking in, both teams have a title, and one team will walk out with both titles. Very interesting setup. I'm pulling for Indy and The Kingdom. I probably shouldn't be. I know they're the bad guys, but I really want to see all the gold around the waists of the Australian wrestlers there. So, let's go Kingdom. Can't believe I said that. Also in action that night are Vixen and Katie Forbes one-on-one. There's also going to be some AWE talent on the show for anyone who cares about that sort of thing. I know there are people that are boycotting anything to do with AWE. Look, BCW, poor business decisions all around, to be honest with you. Poor business decision to partner with AWE on this one. I mean, the amount of rings that are available in Sydney for you to be partnering with AWE is pretty tone-deaf in the current climate. I'm all about innocent until proven guilty. My stance here more has to do with the way they acted after the accusations came out and the way certain talent spoke about the accuser. I don't want to go too into it, but, you know, at the end of the day, don't be a dick, and these things won't happen. So, yeah, pretty tone-deaf for BCW to be teaming with AWE. Now, the way I look at it is, you know, there's a lot of really good Australian wrestlers on this show getting paid. At least I assume they're getting paid for their time, getting paid to travel to Sydney and getting paid to wrestle. And so boycotting a show like this because you don't want anything to go to AWE, I completely understand it and I respect it. At the same time, I want to see Indy Hartwell get paid. I want to see Slade Mercer get paid. I want to see the Preston Kindred make some money. I want to see JXT and Dowie James make some money. So I would lean towards going out and supporting the show. As you saw, I did. Even though it was disappointing for the price, even though I got a 7-minute main event for $60. I'm glad that some of my money went to those guys and I was able to pick up some shirts and stuff to help them get their food and get their gear and do all the things that they need to do. And that's what it's all about. It's all about supporting local grapplers. Even if sometimes we don't agree with the management, right? Because it's not about the management. Yeah, the management are making money, but I don't think they're making as much money as you think. I mean, BCW ran against Riot City, and then this weekend they're running against Melbourne City. I don't think they're going to be raking in the cash, not with the amount of money they'd have to pay the ECW legends. So I don't think management... it's more important to me that the grapplers are being supported. And so I would advise to go out and see the show if you got nothing else on the Friday night anyway, just because there's some really good talent on the show and they deserve your support, even if the management don't. Even if the management are tone deaf and are making poor partnerships and poor arrangements, the wrestlers, they don't deserve to be punished for that. So that's my 2 cents on the issue. Moving forward, they have Sunday night in Melbourne. Now, there are no matches announced for that one, but that takes place at the White Horse Club in Burwood East. As I said, tickets for these shows start at $60. The tour concludes with the evening of Extreme Judgment, which is a sit-down interview with the stars of ECW. That one's on September 9th at Kawartha College in Noble Park North. Tickets for that one start at $35. These sit-down interview shows are great. Highly recommend the sit-down interview shows. If you don't have the opportunity, obviously in Melbourne, they're running against Melbourne City, another poor business decision. But if you're listening to this and you don't have tickets to Melbourne City, you don't have plans, you're a fan of ECW, maybe that's the show to go to. If not, you do always have the Extreme Judgment sit-down interview with the stars of ECW the following night at Kawartha College. That does it for what's going on this weekend in professional wrestling. As I said, what it's all about here, what we stand for here at the B+, specifically when we talk Aussie Grapps, but really this whole B+ project was for this show. This show was the start. And then we were like, let's talk New Japan, let's talk. And it just grew and grew from there. But the original concept was to support Aussie wrestling. So get out, go to a show, buy a shirt, support the wrestlers, help them do what they do what they love, do what we love to watch. I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are known as the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit the B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. That's Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. We are taking over the globe. Please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you feel so inclined. Like, share, subscribe, and thank you ever so much for listening.
Hold one. Arm drag.
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
So, no speak English.
Dummy.
Goodbye and good night.
Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it. Dummy. Hold three. The moss covered. 3-handle family grudunzo.